So good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Murphy. I am the Deputy City Manager for the City of Santa Cruz, and I oversee the Homeless Response Division. I want to welcome you to our Homeless Response Action Plan Update Community Meeting. This is our second time doing this. This meeting is an opportunity for us to provide you with an update on the progress of our 3-year action plan and to discuss the future of our Homeless Response Action Plan. And today I have with me Larry and Wally, our Homeless Response Manager, Susie Oki, our Community Relations Specialist, Jeremy Leonard and Erica Brigger, our City Outreach Team. And at each point in this presentation, they'll have an opportunity to present to you, so you won't just have to listen to me. I just want to start off with giving a little background information. And as you know, homelessness didn't just happen overnight. It's been years in the making, and it's going to take years to solve. And we know this is due to decades of inadequate and affordable housing, lack of mental health and behavioral health service, low wages, and inflation. And just back recently, I read a report from the California Interagency on Homelessness, and they concluded that we can solve homelessness, but at a cost of $8.1 billion each year for the next 12 years. And they would tell you, though, however, the state budget does not reflect this long-term commitment that's needed to solve homelessness. So tonight on our agenda, we'll be discussing the city's Homeless Response Action Plan. We'll talk about our priorities. We're going to talk about our 2023 program outcomes and what our goals are for this year, 2024 and beyond. We will take questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will not use the chat or the hand raise function during this presentation. At the end of the presentation, we will try to get to all of your questions, but if there's still questions out there, I think what we might do then is to create a document, capture your questions, and then post them online. Okay, so let's get started. Next slide, please. So as I said in just my introductory comments, that to resolve homelessness, there's $8.1 billion each year for the next 12 years. And where is this money going to come from? Well, one of the things I want to talk to you about is what's the structural relationship between our little city of Santa Cruz, the state, and the federal government. And where is this money going to come from? And what's also really important to show our link with the county and what our partnerships are going forward. And in terms of funding, the federal government provides $5.2 million to this county to address homelessness. And you can imagine that's not nearly enough. Also, much of our funding comes from one-time grants that are funded through the state. But again, that's one-time funding, and that's not an ongoing commitment of funds that we need to have to resolve and solve this problem of homelessness. Funding doesn't come directly to the city of Santa Cruz, but most recently we did receive one-time state grant funding, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The money is funneled through the county, which is the arm of the state, and they distribute through their number of their programs. But again, cities don't typically, especially cities like ours, we don't receive direct funding to implement our programs. It's one-time funding and grants that we rely on. Next slide, please. Again, just to contextualize what's happening here in the city of Santa Cruz, every year, in order to receive federal funding, we do what's called a point-in-time count. We lovingly refer to it as the PIT count. We do it every year. This year, we did it in January, and we meet up at 5 in the morning, and it happens all across the country, not just here in the city of Santa Cruz, but it happens one night a year. And what this chart here shows you is the total homeless population in Santa Cruz County based on these PIT counts. And a PIT count, we go out there and physically try to count all of the individuals that we see homeless on our streets, in tents and RVs, and in shelters. And what this chart shows you 3 years worth of data. And the blue block, the bottom part, is the city of Santa Cruz, and the orange block is the rest of the county and the 3 other cities. And so, for example, in 2023, you'll see that there were 1,800 people we counted in the pit count throughout the county. But 1,028 of those individuals were here in the city of Santa Cruz. So that tells you 56% of the population of the homeless live here in the city. Now you can also see that there's an overall decrease from 2022 to 2023 of nearly 30%. And we believe that's in large part to the efforts that we have been doing as a city to address homelessness. And of course, we can't do this alone, and we do have our partners that we work with at the county to help implement some of our programs. So it's really important to remember the partnerships and with the state is really what's going to help move us through and help to resolve homelessness. And again, just a little background, this is new for the city of Santa Cruz. We didn't always step into this space. In 2021, the City Council adopted several policies and set goals to address the growing homeless population and to address the impacts that were happening in our city. In addition, during this time, we received a grant from the state of $14 million. Plus, we received ARPA funds. And utilizing these funds, we implemented our very first ever 3-year Homeless Response Action Plan. And that's where we feel we've made a significant number of strides. And there's 5 areas of this plan. And I don't want to go into each one individually in detail, but just to give you an idea of this plan, and it is available on our website. The 5 focus areas of this plan are basic support services, care and stewardship, community safety, building capacity and partnerships, and building permanent, affordable, and supportive services. In each of these areas, we have an action plan that we've been implementing. Again, you can find that action plan update on our website. And we're a little over halfway, and we have made some really significant progress on more than half of the objectives in this plan. And we're committed as a city to continue to implement these plans and try to really make a difference of what's happening in our city. And just to share some of our wins and some of the things that we have done in this last year with these funds. Again, according to the 2023 pit count, homelessness was down nearly 30% in the city of Santa Cruz. We're cautiously optimistic about that because we know there's a lot more work to be done. And in fact, I just recently read a report yesterday out of the county of Santa Clara that for every 1 person exiting homelessness, 2.5 people were entering homelessness. That's a problem. So fortunately, again, with our Homeless Response Action Plan, we have had a number of big wins. We've also created not only the 29% decrease, but we've put 121 people into long-term stable housing through our programs. We are also, as a city, building 960 new affordable housing units. We know homelessness is a complex problem, and we've developed this long-term plan to help guide us through this process. And like I said, we're now updating that plan as we have more than halfway worked through the strategic plan. This requires a lot of time, resources, and collaboration among our partners, including the county, the state, and the federal government, and a lot of community-based organizations and philanthropic organizations, residents, and businesses. We know that the root causes of homelessness stem from systemic deficiencies in affordable housing, healthcare, our criminal justice systems, employment opportunities. And we know it's extremely difficult for communities of all sizes across the country to address this issue. And what we really need, though, to continue the work that we're doing is sustainable, ongoing funding from state and the federal government. And we're building our capacity and our ability to address these. Some of the things that I want to make sure that I acknowledge that our homeless response efforts doesn't just happen within a small group. Our efforts include staff from every department in this city, including Public Works, our homeless response field crew team, which is an amazing crew, our Public Works, Fire, Parks and Recreation, our police department, planning, water, economic development, and our folks from our homeless response team all come together to implement this plan and work every day to try to make the difference in every folks' lives, which you're going to hear some of those amazing stories in just a few minutes. I just want to do a couple more big wins for you to see some of the work that this team has been doing. We've had 109 folks and family and friends. We've serviced 776 people with shelter in our shelter programs and our safe parking programs. We've picked up over nearly 1 million, actually, tons of refuse off our streets. And we've also set up 165 tent-based safe sleeping spaces, which you might also know as the Armory and our 1220 transitional program. Again, we have a lot of work to do to help move folks from homelessness into permanent stable housing. There's a lot I want to let our team speak to of all the work that they're doing. So what I'd like to do now is to hand it over to Larry and Wally, our homeless response manager. Larry?
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. My role tonight is to talk a little bit more about our programs and services and projects that are part of the city's homelessness response. And as Lisa just mentioned, this really is an effort that touches every single department within the city. So the first area is the work that our city teams do in encampment response. We have dedicated public works and public safety teams that operate city-wide in our open spaces, neighborhoods, and beaches. Lisa gave you some of those metrics in terms of their work. But just sort of more fundamentally, what this involves is weekly collaboration between all these departments that have a role, and our cross-department teams respond to CRISP notifications, the Community Request for Service portal, other community concerns, field observations that they have. And really what they do is connect with people living in encampments to provide support like trash bags and additional refuse collection. They remove trash and debris from the watershed, from our streets during storms. And collectively, this has had a tremendous impact and reduced the amount of trash that flows from the San Lorenzo River into our marine sanctuary here on the Monterey Bay. And importantly, while they're out there, they connect people to our city outreach team, who can then help connect them with access to shelter and other services and resources and supports that they may need. So talking about our projects a little bit more, want to highlight the work around severe weather shelters. Last year was the first year that the city activated a severe weather shelter during particularly serious storms that had flood risk or particularly cold temperature. This season, we've been part of a county-wide coordinated response in terms of creating and opening severe weather shelters. We're doing this in partnership with the County of Santa Cruz and the City of Watsonville. So there are 3 locations that have been activated. As I mentioned, there's a criteria for opening the severe weather shelters. And that's 2 or more nights, consecutive nights of temperatures that are 38 degrees or below, or if there is a flood warning that is issued. And so when those thresholds are met, these shelters are opened at all 3 locations in the county, which are the Veterans Hall here in downtown Santa Cruz, at the Freight Building at Depot Park, also in the city of Santa Cruz, and the Veterans Hall in Watsonville. Collectively, these 3 sites have a capacity to serve 116 people. To get out of the weather, they operate from this season. A couple of locations have operated 24/7. The Vets Hall is operated overnight. This is an opportunity for people to get out of the elements and get some support and resources. In advance of these storms, after the thresholds forecasted to be met, we have community-based partners and along with our city teams and county teams that do outreach to get the word out to people who are experiencing homelessness about the access to this shelter. So far this season, the shelters have been open for 13 nights. Next slide, please. Next, I want to talk about our safe sleeping and shelter programs. Lisa mentioned those quickly, but the two programs that the city operates are the 1220 River Street Transitional Community Camp. This is a tent-based program that has capacity for 27 to 30 people. This is a self-managed camp. There is city staff that provides oversight and is on site on a daily basis, but not full time. And the city team works with program participants to develop individualized service plans, connect them to resources. A majority of the participants at 1220 are connected to another case manager through the continuum of care. We also have other programs and services that come on site to meet with program participants to help them get the needed services that they are seeking and interested and connected with. The City Overlook program at the Armory serves 135 people. There's both indoor and outdoor up there. This program is operated by the Salvation Army, and it is also tent-based. There is staff 24/7. We also partner with Community Bridges Lift Line to operate a transportation shuttle from the Armory to downtown locations, including Coral Street at HPHP and downtown, so people can get connected to services and basic needs they may have, medical appointments, and other resources. In addition, participants in the program meet with Salvation Army staff that provide some case management and care coordination, and also with the Armory. We also have community service providers that come up and have co-located services to connect with people on site so that participants don't have to access all the services all the time in the community. Slide. Our safe parking program. So the city operates really two kinds of safe parking programs. There's an overnight oversized vehicle parking program downtown. This program operates in 5 different lots in the downtown area of Santa Cruz. There's capacity for 32 vehicles across these lots. And enrollment has fluctuated between being full at 32 and currently enrollment is 20 vehicles. This program allows people to park from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., so overnight, every night, for 30 days. And when there's capacity, there is a process for an extension and reapplication for people to continue in the program. And so far to date, we've had 7 participants in our overnight program who have moved into the long-term 24/7 program that is operated up at the Armory by the Free Guide. So the long-term program operated by the Free Guide was launched back in August of 2022. It has capacity for between 15 to 20 vehicles, depending on the size of the vehicles. The current capacity right now is 15 because there's a number of very large vehicles up there. The Free Guide provides housing navigation and case management to support program participants. The program is 6 months with extensions for people to continue to work as they're working on their plan and working towards more permanent housing solutions. So this is a robust program. And so far to date, 40% of the participants in this program have moved from this long-term safe parking program into permanent stable housing situations. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, forgot. And to tell you a little bit more about safe parking, I want to share a video with you all. Sorry about the technical difficulties on the video. We will work to share that with you who are participating in another format. So apologies for that little glitch. So I want to move now. Of course, the solution to homelessness is housing, right? And so a concerted effort and major effort of the city is really trying to expand the permanent, affordable, and supportive housing options that we have in the city of Santa Cruz. Presently, there are over 960 affordable housing units being built and in process. Santa Cruz really has been a leader in the affordable housing front. During the 5th RENA cycle, Santa Cruz met its goals at all income levels, and it's one of only 6% of the cities across the state that hit those goals. Santa Cruz has also received the pro-housing designation from the state of California and is just one of 32 jurisdictions across the entire state that have received that designation. And again, we continue to partner with community organizations to provide on-site supportive services with a number of these developments that include permanent supportive housing. And the city of Santa Cruz also recently completed its housing element and had it certified by the state on time, and is the first city within this region to have our plan certified. And while permanent housing is really the goal here and the solution, just wanted to emphasize that emergency shelters are an important part of that solution. It takes a long time to get supportive housing and affordable housing projects developed and built and operational. So in the meantime, emergency shelters and other types of interim housing are really critical to provide better spaces for people who are living in unsheltered situations in our community to have more stable locations, better connections to services and supports, while we continue to do the work of trying to expand affordable housing options in our community. This work takes everybody in our community, and so collaboration is really essential. So a number of our projects rely significantly on our community partners to make this happen. So we've talked a little bit about our safe parking and our safe sleeping programs that we work with community-based organizations to help implement. And in our larger projects and efforts as well, collaboration between community service organizations, other government agencies, and people who have lived experience with homelessness are critical to how we do this work. So I want to touch upon a few of the areas that we're working on. One big project that is in the pipeline has been the Coral Street Vision Plan. That's really about building a navigation center at 125 Coral Street. So this project is envisioning a navigation center with permanent supportive housing, expanded shelter, an integrated health clinic with both primary care, physical health, and behavioral health services on site. And so this is going to be a long-term effort to really build that project, but it requires, work with, again, multiple community organizations, county organizations, and service providers to help realize that. We also, as we seek grant funding to do various projects and to expand the city's homelessness response, we look to reach out to community partners, whether it's other public agencies or community-based organizations, to help us do that work. So recently we submitted a grant application to the state of California for an encampment resolution funding that is really working to move people from unsheltered situations into interim housing with providing wraparound supportive services. So we're working with Housing Matters on that project. We also continue to look and dedicate time and energy on our legislative and advocacy efforts that are really connected to not just trying to bring additional resources and funding to this community to support our homelessness response efforts and the efforts of our partners, but also trying to engage with our elected officials and state officials to advocate for policy changes that can support the kinds of projects and programs and environments to help us support our unhoused community. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, really having a coordinated collaborative effort in terms of establishing a severe weather shelter seasonally to provide additional shelter for people who are living in unsheltered situations during inclement weather. And with that, I would like to turn the presentation over to our outreach team, Jeremy and Erica.
So for outreach, we prioritize meeting people where they are. We spend most of our time outdoors within the city of Santa Cruz. This could be in Poconet, Harvey West, Friendship Garden, the Levee, downtown, Jesse Street Marsh, Coral Street. And our goal when performing outreach is to build relationships and assess the needs of individuals while connecting them to services. Some of those services might include domestic violence support, job search assistance, veteran services, healthcare, mental health services, substance abuse counseling, and access to shelter services. Throughout the day, we receive calls and text messages on our staff phone for case managers and other service providers, both locally and sometimes out of the county, looking to connect those experiencing homelessness to resources or shelter. We do our best to connect individuals to available resources and refer those in the area to meet us for shelter intakes on Fridays for 1220 or the city overlook. Each day looks a bit different, and we're required to be flexible as different tasks continuously pop up that we need to prioritize. Our aim is to provide individuals with compassionate, practical support, information and referrals, in-depth assessments, and access to case management. For those who are not ready to accept the services the city has to offer, the outreach team continues to build rapport and build motivation to ensure services are available when they're needed. We engage approximately 35 to 40 people a day in the neighborhoods throughout the city, which includes our open spaces, riverways, and beaches. What I consider to be a highlight in this work is getting folks in a shelter or even better, stable housing. Our outreach team has enrolled many people into the city overlook who'd previously been unsheltered for years, and some of them were unaware of what resources were available to them. An example is an individual who'd never been in shelter. He's very vulnerable and disabled and thought that in order to enroll into the city overlook, you had to have a California ID. So we let him know that you didn't need an ID, although the staff and case managers there could help him in obtaining one. And since we were able to clear this up, he decided to enroll into the shelter. We've had a fair amount of people transition from 1220 River into stable housing through the hard work and collaboration with case managers and other service providers, and that is truly the best feeling.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your evening to join this important topic. I'd like to talk about the details of 1220 Transitional Community Camp. Larry mentioned it a little bit, but I'd like to add some more depth to it. The 1220 Transitional Community Camp is a mid-barrier, low-cost, participant-guided shelter, meaning that it's not staffed 24 hours a day. We opened it in early 2022 and have served over 100 people or so. We have nearly a 40% housing rate, which is pretty incredible, and I'm pretty proud about that. 1220 provides stability, community, basic hygiene facilities, case management supports, and an improved level of security compared to living on the streets. With our county and nonprofit partners and other city departments, we can connect people to drug treatment, mental health support, physical health support, housing navigation. We can help them out with rental assistance. And finally, once they get into housing, we offer stabilization for making sure that they're stable in their new place. We act as air traffic controllers by coordinating services with the case managers and other service providers throughout the county and beyond. Programmatically, every part of 1220 is designed to encourage participants to become housing ready. We ask that they meet with a case manager at least once a week and work on the goals that they all set for themselves. I'll talk about later in this presentation, I'll talk about the individual service plan, the ISP that we ask that each participant completes. We encourage our participants to spend at least 2 hours a week maintaining the site, which includes cleaning the bathrooms, dumping the trashes, picking up litter around the grounds, and we also require that they maintain a clean personal space and exist as peaceful members of the community. These are all skills that the participant will need to be successful when they become housed. We ask the participants work on a housing packet, which is a checklist of things that they'll need to become permanent tenants one day. IDs, social security cards, bank account statements, credit reports. We have a generic housing application in there as well that they can fill out so that they'll be easy when they do get a housing opportunity. They can present these documents and be 100% ready. At 1220, we hold regular camp meetings to discuss issues and also allow a forum for our participants to highlight successes that they've had with one another. It's a really powerful meeting space where, when people do accomplish a goal, then they can discuss that with their peers. And it's a really nice community building event. To get into 1220, we require that folks be working with a case manager and have a clear pathway out of homelessness. Through the process of motivational interviewing, we assist the participants with understanding their next steps to get out of houselessness. Like Erica mentioned, we generally meet folks at the court building on Fridays to conduct these interviews and also to do intakes for the City Overlook program. Once we determine that a person is a good fit for 1220, we move them in and allow them a couple of weeks to settle in. We find that life on the streets is very stressful for folks, so we feel that a short transitional period is necessary for people to get stable before they get to work on their housing plan. We approach every client from a trauma-informed perspective, and this initial stabilization time frame, we make it flexible, but we definitely want to make sure that the folks are moving forward and with the goal of becoming housed. Once we feel a person is ready, we meet with them again, and through motivational interviewing, again, we work on their ISP or individual service plan. This is where the participant defines their goals and identifies the next steps, as well as outlines their timeline for accomplishing certain tasks. It's also where our staff discovers how we can plug into their housing plan and assist them with attaining their goals. This process is all client-driven. We make sure that the client knows that they are the driver, they're in the driver's seat. We try to meet with clients regularly to make sure that they're on the right path and to reassess areas where our staff can help. So it's a very fluid process. The 1220 transitional encampment is a 6-month program. If we feel that the client is really working hard and diligently to move forward, then we can extend that for 3 months. If they're still working hard and toward their housing goals, we can extend it another 3 months after that for a total of 1 year. 1220 River Street is a unique program, the likes of which I haven't found anything that exists like it in any part of the country. It's very unique. The low cost per housing outcome has attracted the attention of other regions We've been in contact with Hawaii and several cities in Colorado who are interested in finding out how we run 1220. So it's definitely an anomaly, and I'm pretty proud of the work that we've put in to make it work so well. As municipalities are nationwide grapple with the epidemic of houselessness, I anticipate we'll probably see more programs similar to 1220 pop up here and there. Through collaborative efforts with our county partners and various nonprofits, we've been able to assist, like I said, almost 40% of our participants into housing from 1220. This success would not be possible without a robust team effort. To highlight these partnerships, I'd like to turn it back to Erica, who will be talking about a specific case and a specific study that highlights all of this, the various partners that we work with.
Thanks, Jeremy. And I guess I didn't introduce myself before. My name's Erica Brigger. I'm a homeless response shelter and outreach specialist. So I do outreach with Jeremy and also help manage 1220 River. And a case study I've got here. We first met this particular client at the tables Jeremy described, where we do intake interviews for 1220 River Street. And we enrolled him into the program. After reaching out to his case manager at Healing the Streets, we learned that this client had an immediate and time-sensitive housing opportunity. His name came up on an affordable housing waitlist. The client didn't have a working phone at the time, and he hadn't stayed at 1220 for a few days, so we were unsure how to reach him. We contacted the case manager that he was working with at Abode, his work coordinator, and the Healing the Streets case manager, they were all on board to try and locate him so we wouldn't miss out on this housing opportunity. Jeremy and I were driving around town to see if we could find the client, and we actually did. We let him know about the housing opportunity. When we saw him together, we all called the apartment complex to let them know that he was interested. We also called Housing Authority, and we scheduled an appointment for the following morning so he could come in and complete the paperwork that he needed to do. The client said that he would be at the Mental Health Client Action Network, which is also called MHCAN. They provide mental health services for folks. So he would be there in the morning for a meeting so we could meet him there. We reached out to the director to ask if they could remind the client of this appointment with the Housing Authority since it's so important, and we had no other way to get in touch with him. In the morning, we met him there, transported him to Housing Authority, and he completed the necessary paperwork. After that, the Healing the Streets case manager helped him with the lease signing and the move-in process. So then just the other day, Jeremy and I went and delivered a welcome home basket, which is made by Wings Homeless Advocacy. It's a really great program. And he was really happy to show us around his new apartment. The main takeaway here is just what a joint effort it is to get someone into housing sometimes, and how important it is working collaboratively with other organizations.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica.
Yeah.
So my case study, I've changed the details quite a bit just to protect my friend here. Our outreach team has been interacting with this person, Alex, on and off for nearly 4 years. We originally met him in the Benchlands, and they always seemed peripherally interested in exploring substance use treatment, but they could never quite make that commitment. They were, involved in all of this, their substance use and whatnot. We referred them several times to our medical partners at HPHP, which is the Homeless Persons Health Project run by the county. And also we've tried to refer them to our substance use disorder partners, our SUD partners, who work with our clients to refer them into drug treatment. For nearly 3 years, we were in this sort of start-stop pattern with our friend Alex, but our team constantly, we consistently made contact with them, checked in on them, made sure that they were okay, asked them if they were interested in starting the journey to substance use treatment. And so here we are almost 4 years later. We attempted to try to refer them into Housing Matters. That didn't work. That wasn't a good fit for them. In their chaotic life on the streets, they expressed to us the other day that This was a while back. I'm like I said, I'm being very vague. They expressed to us that we were their only constants in their chaotic life on the streets. So fast forward to recently, we found them in pretty bad shape in the rain and very ill. We encouraged them to go seek medical attention, and they did. They went to the hospital, and they spent a little time in the hospital there. And we kept in contact with them. We called them in the hospital, checked in on their well-being, etc. And they were really touched that we did that. When it was their time to exit from the hospital, we asked them again if they were interested in exploring substance use treatment, and they said yes. So we went into action. We were able to contact our substance use disorder partners and get them enrolled in a program. They have been successful in that program for multiple months now, and they are currently looking at exiting that program and getting directly into an SLE. So this is really tough work, but seeing people come out of this very dire situation often is quite rewarding. But it just illustrates the various touch points along this individual's journey that we, had to attach them to, and the longevity of this. It took us 4 years to get them into an SLE, to encourage them to go explore these other options. So I just wanted to illustrate how many partners that it took to do this and be successful at this. And with that, I'd like to turn the discussion back over to Larry.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Erica, for sharing those stories. And their stories really illustrate the stories that they shared. An important part of our collaboration is really engaging people with lived experience and trying to learn from their expertise to help inform the city's homelessness response and the services and programs that we offer, and how we can utilize that information to try to improve our work. So we receive regular and ongoing feedback from our shelter program participants up at 1220, at the state parking programs, at the city overlook, at the armory. We get this through individual check-ins, through on-site community meetings, and we really want to prioritize services that would be most beneficial and helpful to them, and they are the experts on what they need. In addition, the city's recently conducted a survey of people living in encampments in Santa Cruz. And interestingly, it shows the reach of our outreach team, that they knew nearly all of the people by name who participated in the survey. And really, many of the folks that completed the surveys at both the program sites and in the encampments had really been experiencing homelessness for a long time. A number of them were reported experiencing behavioral health challenges and substance abuse issues. And what we heard from them when we asked about their service needs is that most indicated that their greatest challenges involve really identifying and navigating the needed services. How do you access those systems? How can it be better coordinated is what we heard. Most indicated that they would be open to interim housing as long as there was sufficient privacy. So the idea is that prefer individualized shelter and interim housing options rather than congregate settings. And really the most important services that they said that they wanted to have at a shelter program, what was important was on-site hygiene, having access to medical and dental services, having storage on-site, and access to case management, housing navigation, and mental health services. So again, not only does this feedback and this these insights from people who are experiencing homelessness help us improve our programs and services, but it's also really integral as we move into a process of updating our 3-year Homelessness Response Action Plan, really taking their thoughts, their suggestions, their insights into how we craft the city's work in homelessness response moving forward. So what's next? As I just mentioned, we're in the process of updating our action plan for the next 3 years. We're at the midway point in this first 3-year period. And so we want to look at what's working, what's been successful, what needs improvements, and modify that looking forward. One of our big goals and one of our big challenges is really obtaining ongoing sustainable funding to support the city's homelessness response. That is not unique to the city of Santa Cruz. Really, we hear from jurisdictions all across the state as well as counties that a lot of the funding to do homelessness services is based off of one-time grants. And so trying to find ongoing sustainable funding to build up these efforts and scale up efforts and continue them is really critical and a part of what we're investing time and energy in trying to solve for. It's really critical. We detail to give you an overview of the programs that we have in place now, and being able to continue to support these existing programs, particularly the shelter and safe sleeping capacities, is really critical. So that is a focus and a priority for us. We continue to collaborate with the county in all of this work. As a small county and a small city, really working together in partnership is critical. Not that it's not important in larger cities and metropolitan areas, but really trying to find effective solutions in a small community requires us all working together in alignment in the same way. So that continues to be a focus. And as I mentioned, we're moving forward in partnership with planning for the future of a navigation center on Coral Street. And really, as we mentioned, the solution to homelessness is housing. So we continue to prioritize permanent supportive housing development in the city of Santa Cruz. And with that, I think I will turn it over to our moderator, Susie Oki.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susie Oki. I'm the Community Relations Specialist for the Homelessness Response Team. So we're going to start the Q&A section now. You can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and just drop messages in there. People have been doing it throughout the presentation, so even though we may not get to all of them, we will record all of them and provide information and answers to you as we can. So I'm going to group similar topics together so we can answer as many questions as possible. So first question is about safe parking. So Larry, if you want to be on deck for this, is the city considering expanding the long-term safe parking program?
Yeah, certainly the long-term safe parking program is one of our priority projects. It's demonstrated really good success in connecting people to permanent housing solutions. So that's something we'd like to do. Of course, resources is always one of the big questions, because of the success is a function of the housing navigation and case management that goes on there. And so getting sufficient funds to be able to expand that is part of the challenge that we're trying to solve for. But certainly the efficacy of the program, the success of the program, and continuing need would support expanding when we have the ability to do so.
Another question about safe parking is, how do folks find out about the program? How do they enroll?
Yeah, so they can go on our website. There is a web page, and Susie, I'm sorry, you probably have that handy, but you can get information on our safe parking programs and the phone number and email to get more information about our program, whether it's the overnight program or the long-term program. We can connect you with the free guide to get on their wait list.
So, the answer to that is actually on the Homelessness Response webpage. There is a link to safe parking. And if you just go there, there's a lot of information. People can call and leave a message to speak directly with staff that manage those programs and get enrolled in overnight immediately and get added to the wait list for long term. Let's see, another question. How can we better coordinate services? I know that Houston-Harris County Coalition is doing this. I'm not familiar with Houston or Harris County, but any thoughts on how we can better coordinate services?
Yeah, as I mentioned, really, when you're working in particular, unlike Houston-Harris County, which is a huge metropolitan area, although coordination might be a little more challenging because of the number of partner agencies and jurisdictions. But here it's really essential that we work with our county agency, with other municipalities, to really be in alignment in this work. So as I mentioned, we work with the county in a wide variety of ways to make sure that there's alignment in the city's Homelessness Response Action Plan and the county-wide plan that is administered by the Continuum of Care, which the county administers. So that alignment and that collaboration is ongoing, and really to have an impact and reduce homelessness in our community requires us all to be working together. So that's a huge piece of what we do.
Okay, so we have another question around why is intake for shelters paused right now?
Who wants to? I guess I'll answer that as well. So yeah, right now we're actually in sort of a seasonality effect as well, but we're at capacity virtually for both at the City Overlook and at 1220. So we're hitting the pause button on new intakes based off of capacity.
We've got another question about looking to other cities. Are we using models from other cities or counties that are showing demonstrable results? Are there other cities of similar sizes that we are looking to for guidance or mentorship, or even just learning?
Yeah, so on a regular basis, we're in conversation once a month. We're in a peer-to-peer video conference that's facilitated by the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness among West Coast cities. And these are cities large and small. And so we get together once a month and really share best practices in terms of what different communities are doing on different aspects of homelessness. So it's been a really insightful and interesting way to learn about both the successes and the challenges that other jurisdictions are encountering. So certainly we've had a chance to learn from what other communities have done. And similarly, we've been able to present the work here in Santa Cruz to really provide insight from our experiences that can inform the work that happens in other communities. So as I think Jeremy mentioned earlier, we've shared about the program design of the 1220 transitional community camp. And then that's led to follow-up conversations with Modesto, Hawaii, and Boulder County and Colorado, just to name a few, to try to learn more. And we always use those occasions to hear what else they're doing that we might be able to apply here. So talking and collaborating and learning from other jurisdictions is a really important aspect to doing this work, and particularly for cities, because as Lisa mentioned at the onset, traditionally, this has been work that has been administered through county agencies, and a lot of cities are really new, given that they don't have health and human service departments, and really leaning into the space and developing their capacity to be able to do this work well.
One last question, since I want to be mindful of time. How does the Coral Street vision address moving people who are currently on the streets off the streets?
Yeah, so the idea of Coral Street is the development of a navigation center, which is really a shelter with supportive services. And so the idea is we create additional capacity for shelter, couple that with an array of services, including housing navigation, case management, having on-site medical and behavioral health and substance abuse services, and really provide, again, it's that wraparound. So it's interim housing, shelter, plus supportive services. And really that's working to get, in the outreach at the front end to get people into the navigation center, have those enriched services, work on those connections to permanent supportive housing options, is to really to create that pipeline moving people from unsheltered situations into interim housing, into permanent housing. And really, it's all of that working together. Sort of, the model that you hear about, and it's a big part of what they do in Houston and Harris County is you hear housing first. Well, housing first isn't housing only or even interim housing only. It's really these supportive services that meet people where they're at, help address the most pressing needs to be able to allow them to successfully transition to permanent housing.
All right. I'm going to close the Q&A for right now. I know there are a few questions that we didn't get to, and we will respond directly to you. I can see people's names, so don't feel like we have left you out. If you have any other additional questions, you can respond to the Zoom invite and send questions in. Sometimes this information is a lot to take in at once, and you might have questions that percolate up tomorrow. The next slide is just that all of this information that we've reviewed tonight is actually available on our website, cityofsantacruz.com/homelessness, and the webinar will actually be available probably in the next 36 hours or so. So if you want to share or rewatch it, you'll be able to do that on our website. In addition, we have a homelessness response newsletter, which I believe some of you are already on since you got the invite to this event through that. But if you aren't part of our homelessness response newsletter, please sign up. You can also do that on the website. So thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate your time and interest in staying connected to what's going on in the city, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.